Welcome back to Behind the Wheelhouse. You're on the show with J and J. It's sunny and hot here in Tampa.
Of
Not
course.
like what our guest is dealing with up in Michigan.
Yeah. Yeah. I think he's got about 6 inches there. I don't think you'll ever get that in Tampa. All right. Well, today's guest is Danny Pulver. I believe that's correct. With Northern Logistics Worldwide. Danny works dispatch for the company in the LTL side. Glad to have you on today, sir.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're with Northern Logistics. You're a dispatcher with Northern Logistics. Tell us a little bit about yourself, about Northern and what you do for them.
So, yep, my name's Danny. Been with Northern for 8 years now. I got into logistics right from college, had my internship here and everything. And what I've been doing since about the second year I worked at Northern is LTL. I started on second shift actually, which that was kind of like a cleanup crew. Things that happen throughout the day, how we were going to fix it for the next day. Before all the automation stuff has come out, we would actually have to print out all the driver sheets that night so they would have what they were doing the next day. Now that, automated driver systems have come
Yeah,
out, so they
lots
actually use
changed in the last
tablets.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah,
It
there's,
has.
the amount of paper we've saved is unbelievable. And it's
Yeah.
really good. Even, the best part is the amount of time you save.
Right.
But when I started dipping my fingers into the LTL and really started, proving myself, how I could, get a pickup here and there done, starting my relationships with the drivers. It's kind of stuck. I've been in the Detroit LTL now it's been like 6 full years that I've been doing this quadrant. So,
Explain to our listeners what the difference is between LTL and truckload for those that don't know.
so LTL is, less than truckload is what it stands for. What I do is anything that, you have a customer that has a skid, say in Troy. I mean, not everybody knows Michigan very well, but just a city near Detroit, we got one skid to pick up. We've got a driver in the area that has space. I'll send that to him. And then from there, I'll look at other orders that are sitting out in our system, whether it's, 5 skids here, 6 skids there, maybe even three. What I'm trying to do is fill up that truck to get him back to the terminal so our cross dock can load the trucks for the next day for our deliveries.
Gotcha.
Okay. So, Danny, when people hear about dispatch, they often underestimate the job itself, the pressures. Everybody thinks it's just the simplest job in the world. I've dispatched for years. John has as well. It's nothing like what people think it is. Could you walk us through a day? I know yours is a little bit different, and then the way that dispatchers of full truckload. But can you explain the different things? I used to have a large LTL business, and one of the things that I always seen with the LTL dispatchers, they never knew what the driver's skid looked like on the truck. They would show up at my location. I had longer skids, 12, 16 foot long, and they didn't have
Yeah.
room for it. And
Yeah.
if you could kind of just go over a day of how your operation works to let our listeners know.
Yeah, so I get in at about 7:30 every morning, and the first thing I do is check our list of the orders that are sitting out for that day. And then our teammates go through the whole system, every driver that is going to be on the road that day. And we have a Google sheet that we put each individual driver on there, where
Mhm.
they're going, like all their stops and where they will end up, and then whether they are picking up a truckload or if they will have space on their truck. So we go back and forth between the two sheets regularly. Those are the two sheets I'm looking at mostly besides the actual GPS where our drivers are. We have GPS in all of our units in the fleet. Um, but so what I'll do is I'll see, right away. I know like one of my guys that I work with every day, Rusty Ponce, he goes down to the same areas every single day,
Mhm.
has great relationships with the customers he sees daily. He and I talk, every 10 minutes we're saying something to each other. I'm going to look at any order that I know, hey, this can go on Rusty right away. So I'll do that. I'll just try to clean up the sheet. So when I come in, we'll have anywhere from 40 to 60 orders sitting out for that day.
Mhm.
And that's before all of our customers wake up. So once they start waking up, we're going to, start piling on the orders that they'll come in and say, oh, shoot, I was supposed to schedule this yesterday. Anyway, we can get this picked up now. So that's my morning typically. That's 7:30 to about 10 o'clock is when I'm going through that. A lot of the time when I'm not looking at the actual sheets, I'm answering phone calls. So that could be a driver calling into our driver line. That can be a customer calling in our customer service line. Anytime a driver breaks down, they call in and then we send them to our breakdown department. Any sort of call a dispatcher can get.
Mhm.
Um, Either my personal phone or my landline. And, sometimes those calls that come in, they'll end up being a 30-minute problem that a driver needs help fixing. I mean, it can be something as simple as we showed up somewhere and don't have a PO number. So now we got to go back to the broker or the customer that set it up, get the communication from them, what the PO number is, get that back to the driver. And sometimes, the correspondence isn't super quick. So
Yeah, the littlest things can sometimes turn into the most ridiculous headaches.
absolutely. We actually, I'll give an example from yesterday. We had a driver in Roseville that the truck was scheduled to pick up, days in advance. They both customers knew we were coming, but because we pick up multiple orders at this place, we didn't have the load number that was supposed to be picked up. So we got with the customer that set it up. It took them about 35 minutes to answer us, even after
Mhm.
a call and a voicemail left too. And then when we finally got the actual load number, there was three trucks in front of that driver.
Mm.
So he's now, going to sit there for 2 to 3 hours.
Yeah,
The problem
and
with
he's
that,
ticked off, and now you got to settle him down. And
right? Yeah. Well, and luckily it was one of our drivers that's super super calm. I don't know
That's
how he's
good.
so patient. I could never be as patient as him.
well, and that's part of your job, I'm sure. Sometimes too, is you're sometimes a counselor to these guys, trying to keep them calm, trying to convince them, that it's
Yeah.
going to work
Yep.
out. And
Yep. That's part of it, and that's where having a relationship with our drivers is. I feel like that's a super underrated
Mhm.
attribute.
it is.
They have some guys they talk to way more, some guys they don't talk to at all. But you know, I feel safe saying that our drivers are confident when they call us. They know that we're going to be able to help them.
Yeah,
Right.
I used to tell my dispatchers, and even I lived by this when I was dealing with drivers dispatching myself. Is if you leave the company, that driver's probably going to try and find out where you're going. He's going to be with you. That driver's going to wants to
Yeah.
fight to stay with you, the dispatcher, over
Mhm.
anybody else. That's when you know you've got a good driver, and that's when you know you've got a good relationship. That relationship is what keeps things moving. When that driver gets up on Monday morning and doesn't want to go into work, he knows he's dealing with Danny, and he knows, you guys are going to hold each other accountable. He knows, he's got a responsibility to you as a dispatcher
Mhm.
to complete that job, more so even than necessarily Northern Logistics.
Oh yeah. I mean, absolutely. Um, I mean, yeah, I'd say same for me as well. Like if I get in and know, I mean, well, and like I said, Rusty is a guy I work with, daily all the time. If I get into the office and I know he's not coming in today, I'm working that much harder to figure out, okay, who's going to his area, because
Yeah.
now I'm going to have to probably explain things a little more. I'm going to have to look at timing a little better. And so, yeah, I mean, it's goes off of both of us, I'd say.
Yeah, real quick, I want to point on something before Justin gets to his next question. But you mentioned Rusty, and we talk about that on this show about having great relationships with
Mhm.
customers and how important that is, how it makes the driver's life easier. Number one, these drivers who go in and they're not dressed well, they don't carry themselves well, they don't go in and
Yeah.
say hello, shake hands with the customer. It just makes their life that much more difficult when you're dealing with that, because the customer doesn't want to see that driver either. If
Yeah. Yep.
if you get a driver that comes in and presents himself professionally, shakes hands, brings in maybe donuts every now and then, that truck's going to be loaded faster. It's going to be
Yep.
much more pleasant to deal with that
Yeah.
customer, and you're going to get you're going to do better. You're going to improve your business. You're going to solidify relationships with that customer, which is going to ultimately solidify that driver's job, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it might bring even more opportunities from that customer too.
Exactly.
Right.
Yep. They're
Well,
our number one salesperson, the
mhm.
drivers. Yep.
Well said. Yep.
Yeah, I was actually going to come bring that up, and I'm glad you did because with LTL, it's so different than full truckload. LTL, a lot of people don't know it. There is a lot of competition in LTL,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and it's a hard niche to get into. And you probably experienced that in the very beginning of going out to customers because a lot of times they've been with that company for so long, they know everybody that shows up, and you've really got to go out of your way with price, customer service to win them over. And usually they only give you one or two opportunities. So that driver is very important along with yourself to be able to stay in the door because one thing that I want to make sure that people understand as well about LTL that I think you when you were going over your job you made it even still sound easier than what it was. Difference between a regular LTL over the road driver or dispatcher, they're getting one load a day. They're going to be A to B next day delivery. With you, you've got 10, 14, 12 stops a day, but not only do you have to make sure all that is on tap, you still have to have that truck back at your dock by X time. So then that shipment can go and still be on time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and that goes a lot with your driver and having that relationship. Like you said, the Rusty guy. I'm pretty sure Rusty knows the ins and outs of where he's at, where he can go to, who he can talk to get done a little faster if he knows he's needing to make up 15 minutes. He knows the areas, which a lot of
Yep.
OTR guys don't know, different areas. But if you could speak on that, just a little bit of that side, because LTL is such a different animal from the OTR guys.
Well, I mean, it's very fast paced. There's not ever a time where I'm just sitting and doing nothing.
Yep.
I
I
mean,
can believe that.
right now this is the least stressed I've been all day. Just having a conversation. So
Right.
you're absolutely right. I think one thing about the customer relationship to the driver that's so big is with those LTL shipments, there are certain customers that don't have docks that we deliver to with those LTL shipments. So they're expecting their freight to be on the tail when we show up.
Yep.
They might have a fork truck, but all they're going to be able to do is go to that back, very tail of the trailer and lift their pallet off.
Right.
So, some of our drivers are going to need pallet jacks, which let's say, most of our drivers that go down to Detroit, they take one just because there's a lot of those customers. But
In those cases, is it driver assist?
yeah, yep,
Mhm.
he'll make sure the pallet get put to the tail of the trailer. But what's nice about having those good customer relationships is that Rusty knows there's some spots in Detroit they can go and say, "Hey, can you move these specific skids to our tail after you load
Yep.
your stuff?" And if
Yep.
you've
Yep.
got a good relationship with certain customers with docks,
So yeah,
that's
absolutely, Rusty. I'll
huge.
take care of you.
That
Yeah.
can
Yep.
that can save a whole day.
And that's all on the driver.
Yep.
That is all the driver. Yes, I used to ship lumber, and I didn't have a dock,
Okay.
and they would pull it as far as they could, and then the driver would get into the truck. He'd hook it up with the chain. I'd drag my 12-foot pallet as far back as I could.
Yep.
My
Yep.
driver would stick a pallet. This is stuff we shouldn't have done, but the only way to get it unloaded, we'd stick a pallet underneath, the front part where I could then come around and pick it up from the side and then turn my way out. And it was all because of the driver going that extra mile to help me get unloaded. So yes, I
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
most definite.
Going back off of what we're talking about, it actually happened today where pallet jack stopped working. So,
Oh no.
thinking, oh boy, this is going to make it so we bring back all this freight we were supposed to deliver because the stuff that was on the tail wasn't fully on the tail. That's what needed pallet jacked. And there was still 10 to 15 skids behind that needed to be delivered.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
I hung up. I started talking to other drivers in the area. Who has a pallet jack? Who can I have them meet? And then about 10 minutes later, luckily I found a solution, but the driver I was talking to had already thought through the whole day. And he's like, I actually don't need it. When I'm, going to the place that needs the pallet jack, I'm going to be 5 minutes away at my stop previous. I know the guy on the dock, he'll help me out in this situation. We're good. I don't need it. No offense to anybody that's new with us, but if that's somebody that's new that hasn't done a run like that yet, that day is basically, a loss.
Yeah, it's all about how you conduct yourself. It's all about finding solutions,
Hmm.
working through problems, and if you just remain calm and on both sides, the dispatcher
Yeah.
side and the
Yep.
driver's side, if you just remain calm and you're willing to work through it, a lot of times it gets resolved, and it can be resolved rather quickly.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
If you don't have that, if one of you freaks out, like you said, ruins the
Mhm.
whole day and costs the company money.
And I'll admit too, especially when I first started, there
Yeah.
was times where I was not as patient as I am now. And, you get into it
I
with a
think we've all
driver,
been there.
and
Yep, for sure.
I can think of a time where I was asking him to pick up something. I knew he'd already had a long day. I know he had time to do it, didn't want to. And I totally understand that, but I basically yelled at him, we're going to
Don't
miss
do
this
it.
pickup. We're probably not going to get this opportunity again down the line. Basically saying like, this is on you, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And
Well,
no, he didn't. He drove right by, didn't pick it up.
uh,
I found somebody else that could pick it up later, luckily. So I did call that driver again and I hashed it out. I said, I apologize for how I handled myself in that situation. You don't
Yeah,
deserve to be
yeah,
yelled at like
yeah.
that.
But sometimes
And
drivers got to realize also, like, one thing that dispatchers don't get enough credit for is, the driver is dealing, not that it's not complicated, not that like you
yeah,
said, we couldn't do anything. The drivers are our customers. We
yes.
couldn't do anything without the drivers, but you're managing multiple drivers, multiple shipments at one time, and having
Hmm.
to do a lot of multitasking.
yes.
Sometimes taking multiple phone calls. I remember when I first started in brokerage, and it was my first time, sitting at a desk, and I have two phones on either side, or one phone on either side of me, and I'm like, what in the actual hell am I
Yeah,
supposed
yeah. Yep.
I'm supposed to, and I got lines blown up like a Christmas tree, and
Yep.
my boss was yelling at me like, answer the damn phone, and I'm like, well,
Oh
which
yeah.
phone do I answer?
Right. Yeah.
So you don't get enough
You have two
credit for the
hands.
multitasking that you have to
R-
do.
Right.
Right. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. No, I think I would say, as I've worked in this industry, 8 years, I'd say decently long time now,
Hmm.
which has flown by the way. Time goes by way too fast. I think that is the disconnect between what drivers see dispatchers as they do think that, they're really not, they're managing two people, but
Mhm.
any given time, I'm thinking about probably 15 to 20 drivers.
Right.
So,
Right.
and I think one good thing that we have done is, if we have somebody that has, kind of been having some issues lately, we'll, get their day started by having them sit in with us for an hour or two, just so they can get our perspective.
Yeah,
And
that's
That's a good
good.
idea.
And I, at least once a year, will go on a ride along with a driver as well too. We
That's
actually
great.
had a driver that was
Yeah.
complaining. He's like, "You guys don't know what I deal with. You don't know the docks I go to." So I was like, "All right, let me go on a ride along with you." And we talked through like, issues we were seeing on each side that whole day, and
Mm.
he's been awesome ever since. I mean, the communication has gone up, productivity too. I mean, you definitely have to see it from both sides.
Absolutely. Well
Most
said.
definite.
Well, something you mentioned, driver breakdown issues, you brought that up. Costs are up across the board.
Mm.
Fuel, insurance, maintenance, especially equipment, is hard to get. Um, Most drivers will tell you they haven't seen a raise in years. Money is the root of all evil, right?
Right? Yeah.
But it's necessary. And there's all kinds of costs, increased costs that you as a carrier are dealing with now. So from a dispatcher's point of view, what do you see with that? And especially, considering your relationships you have with drivers now.
So I don't do any of the scheduling for the next day. So I'm not actually a part of the full driver reviews for their pay, but we actually do give raises.
Okay.
Um, they're not big or huge, huge by any means, but the longer a driver's here, the more they're going to get paid.
Awesome.
We actually
Awesome.
do have that. But again, we also hold drivers accountable. I got to be upfront about that. Say, we have a driver back into a vehicle at a customer. That's going to be very expensive for us to fix.
Right.
Depending on the situation, that may be something that a driver might have to help pay for.
How do you guys deal with breakdowns and stuff like that?
We have a 3-person breakdown department. We have our own maintenance crew here in Clare.
Okay.
Um, and so we can fix our own trucks if they're in Clare. We can make sure we route those correctly. But I'm guessing you probably want to know something more along the LTL, like if one of my drivers breaks down,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So if blow a tire or something, guy's on his way to make a pickup. First and foremost, we gotta get the breakdown department involved. They're gonna call a company to come fix it.
Hmm.
We'll get the ETA from them. What I'll do is basically go into scramble mode and figure out, okay, can I get this customer to stay later? Is the fix going to happen before so it can still be on time, or do I need to find another driver to pick this up? So full on scramble mode, trying to connect all the dots.
Right.
That can take anywhere from, I could be lucky and it take 10 minutes, but there's times where that'll take an hour too.
Yeah.
I got you.
So, I mean, that aspect of the job is what makes it the most hectic, I'd say.
I can definitely can see that. So there's a growing conversation around driver scorecards. With everything that's going on now with the illegals, the non-domicile CDLs,
Yep.
the driver scorecard, can track their work history, who they are, because especially with y'all's side of the business, your driver is in
Yeah.
front of the customer
Yep.
daily. And so is that something that would be something that would work for the LTL side to where, not only do you get to see more of a glimpse of who the driver is, your customer, that person, the customer gets to know them, it gives drivers leverage. If you're a good driver, you got a higher score, maybe they can come and
Yeah, it's not used as like a punishment. It's built on proof of professionalism.
Yeah, yeah, we're looking at the positive side of that. We have our own internal scorecards too that we even do competitions sometimes with.
oh, nice.
We did like a bracket tournament last year. It involved most of the drivers in the company. It's a sense of, pridefulness of the drivers are paying attention to what their score is and they want to get better.
Yeah, how important would that be, something like that be for like new drivers coming into Northern Logistics, and showing that, hey, if it's a, range from 0 to 100 and they're a 90 versus a 70 or something like that, how important would something like that be?
I think the work ethic is really what drives it too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Say it's a green driver, this is their first driving position.
Hmm.
The cameras are going to record all of our, you know, following distances, harsh braking, harsh turns, and we have a driver relations guy that looks at all this video throughout the week, and he'll bring up certain videos he sees where he's say he's seeing consistent harsh braking from a new driver or too close following consistently. He's going to call him right away and say, hey, this is what I'm seeing, your score's dropping, what can we do about it? And then next week, the next couple weeks, he's going to be paying attention more. Has he improved? And
Yeah,
we've seen a huge improvement because everybody wants their score to be better. it's
exactly.
been
Yeah.
it's a lot of people, a lot of the drivers, they're not a huge fan of like inward facing cameras, which we don't have those fleet wide. And there's still some bugs to work out, like with our forward facing. Sometimes it'll log a following too close if somebody cuts them off. And you guys dealing with drivers too, or having driven yourself, people don't respect trucks on the road at all.
Nope, you're
Yeah,
exactly
it's
right,
really a shame.
100%.
And I'll be first to admit, I never really thought about it before I even got into this industry. But when I'm on the expressway or something and I'm around trucks, I just it's secondhand. I notice, oh my gosh, they cut right in front of them. They can't even see them right now. They're so close in front of them. And I definitely feel for what they deal with on the road, not just at their stops. But I just kind of went on a random tangent,
No, that's good.
Oh
but
yeah.
uh, but yeah, I mean the scorecards have definitely been a big help in what we're looking for in a driver, even.
Yeah, that you guys have an internal one. We're talking about with our sponsor Ready App about
Mhm.
some external scorecards that
Yeah,
give carriers better insight into the drivers that they're hiring and so forth.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Yep.
yeah. So, you're an LTL. I don't know how much you deal with truckload as well, but do you see anything with freight rates and what they're doing? Do you see, on the truckload side, especially COVID rates were through the roof. Drivers were
Yeah.
making a ton of money.
Yep.
That's since dropped off. I don't think we're to the lows that we were before COVID, and I actually think they're ticking up a little
Right.
bit. But what do you see with freight rates on the LTL side? Is it this? Are you guys dealing with the same issues there that you're dealing with in truckload? Tell us a little bit about that.
There are certain customers where we actually name our rates. We have like the base starting point. We have our first skid rate, and then depending on what the actual material is, will depend on what the next skid costs as well. And for that skid, we go off of 48 by 48 size. So it will be more expensive if it is, oversized. Typically we go with like 26 spots in a dry van trailer. How many spots is the material you want to ship taking up? But yeah, it seems like they have been kind of consistent the last couple of years. But I will say, because we'll get certain expedites emailed into us or called into us, we have started to see that we can, start charging a little higher if we have that really good opportunity to get that done for them that day. There are still some dirt low rates out there that once in a while we're having to do it anyway. Just we don't want a driver empty anywhere, so sometimes we will run into that. But I'd say yeah, we have seen an uptick the last couple months in the LTL side, at least
Okay.
in Inter Michigan.
Yeah.
So
Well,
it's
that's
going up a
good.
little bit. Yeah.
I remember dealing with LTL and the MFSC. I don't remember what it was
Right.
called now. You can ship a chair, for instance, and if it's got a leather seat in it or a cloth seat, it's a completely different class.
Yeah.
The
Right.
it can get so difficult because you have to know all the material. So then if there is a claim or something, and you know what's on the
Yep.
truck, do you deal with any of that? Because I know a class 55 to a class 80 or a 200, the pricing can get really high from one class to the other. And then two, I know a lot of customers will try to do it on a low class, and
Hmm.
then you find out 2 weeks later, no, it was actually a 200 class. So now it's $100, $200 more.
Right. Yeah, I actually don't personally, but the way our office is set up, I've got me and then my three other team members sitting in the same like quadrant, and
Hmm.
then the customer service team that all does all the pricing, they sit 10 feet behind me. So we're all in the same room. So it's all, we're all working together the whole time, but I don't deal with the actual pricing of it.
So I wanted to skip ahead here and talk about AI autonomous trucks. We went to the show last year, the Mid America show. We seen
Okay.
quite a few companies that had, AI dispatchers. We had one right across from us that was actually a broker, and I went over and
Oh,
and,
really?
and talked with it, and me and AI went through a quote. Uh,
Oh,
and then
boy.
yeah, it was something. I mean, it
It's,
was
it's
it was
crazy.
different. Yeah, it is what all they can do. But electric trucks, autonomous future AI. What do you see in the next 5, 10 years that might affect the LTL side of the industry?
I say what we've been seeing already is, like you said, brokers becoming AI. We get calls right now, from what
Oh, do
I've
you?
answered, we're getting calls for updates, and you immediately know it's an AI bot or whatever you call them, right?
Right.
They'll say, it's generic, like, hello. And then a
Yeah.
10-second pause after you
Yeah.
say hello back. And you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
What I have seen is AI docks with the conveyors on them,
Oh, wow.
where there'll be conveyor belts on, you go to a customer, you will only be hitting a certain dock. And it might even cause to be more time constraint where we show up, those skids are already on that conveyor belt. When our truck trailer gets locked into that dock, those two skids are going on. And then, the AI can unlock the dock and then you go on your way. Because, with all drivers using their tablets, all the paperwork will probably eventually just be online too. Even though I'm still a huge fan of the physical copy of having those PODs, gets us paid way quicker.
Well, I know one of the first few things that I seen AI with LTL side was, and I don't know the actual name of the product, but it
Hmm.
was where you would pick your pallet up, you would drive under like a scan, it would scan the barcode, it would weigh it, get the size, and then it would tell the or the forklift driver, hey, it goes on the Sacramento truck or the Detroit
Yeah.
truck,
Yeah.
and I've seen that for a couple of years. That was probably the first thing. And from what everybody had always told me, that had saved a lot of time, especially for the forklift, right? You didn't have to get off, read it,
Yep.
and stuff like
Yep.
that.
Yep. We haven't done anything. We have looked into systems like that for our own cross docks.
Hmm.
Right now, we're still doing Google Docs with load sheets
Hmm.
for the loaders for what they're loading for the next day.
You think we'll ever see, a day without drivers in the truck? You think we're going to see autonomous trucks, truly autonomous trucks, where you don't have any driver in the truck?
I think we probably will. I don't think it will be across the board, but I don't know. I feel like it's kind
Yeah,
of
every
funny.
every time I say it's not going to happen, or it's like, how are they going to fix this?
Mhm.
I see a solution. It's just like, how are you
Right.
going to
Yeah.
charge these trucks? They're building in coils into the roads that are going to
Yeah.
charge
Yeah.
these trucks as they're running,
Hmm.
and they're constantly coming up with new solutions. I think our infrastructure has to be, improved dramatically before
Yes.
Dramatically, yes.
before it can
Yes.
support truly autonomous. But we've already got trucks out there cars out there that can drive.
Right.
You got an 18,000 pound. I say this and I get criticized for it sometimes, but you truly do have an 18,000 pound missile driving down the road, or
Oh
I mean
yeah.
80,000 pound,
Yeah.
not
I was
18,
gonna say, yeah, if it's a
not
full
18,
load, then
eighty
yeah.
thousand pound
Yep.
missile. Like I'm saying,
Yeah.
Yep.
80,000 pound missile driving down the road and on 18 wheels, and anything can happen. If that computer malfunctions or decides that it wants to stop all of a sudden, and slam on the brakes and there's no driver to help, correct that, it's scary.
That's what. Yeah. I was just gonna say that's what freaks me out about the winter too. Anything
Yeah.
automated,
True.
it's not
Oh, I didn't even
gonna
think of
know how to
that.
drive on ice. It's not
Yeah.
gonna know. I should be in low gear here most likely because of the ice. Even when you start losing control, our drivers. I mean, there's been plenty of times where they get themselves out of a situation that could have been so much
100,
worse
100%.
because of how they can react to it. So, and then
But
that's still like, living up in Michigan, I'm always going to think about that aspect of it.
Probably the good thing about LTL is kind of like flatbed. The autonomous truck is probably a long way because the driver is such an important part. I think it would be tough sale to do autonomous truck and then you ask your customer to do all the work, of
Yeah. Oh,
moving,
yeah.
that kind of.
Yep.
Plus, too, then it gets liability. You don't really want people inside your trailers either from other
Mhm.
customers because then you can have a claim or something comes
Yep.
up missing. So
Yep.
hopefully you won't have to worry with that for quite a while.
Right. Yeah. Well, and you said flatbed too. I mean, you have all the tarp loads that you have too.
Yeah,
How
tarps,
is that
tractor.
going to happen?
you need a robot,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right,
to come
exactly.
in there and
Exactly.
tarp the loads, and
Yep.
you need a robot that can jump up on that trailer.
Hmm. Yep.
exactly.
So let's get into some fun stuff. What sports team does Northern Logistics haul for? And let's give you an opportunity to kind
Mhm.
of talk about Northern Logistics, the brand, what you guys stand for, and why shippers should consider you when it comes to LTL or truckload, and why drivers should maybe should take a look at you when they're looking for a new job.
So I'll start with sports teams, like you said. Pretty split in house between U of M fans, University of Michigan, and Michigan State fans.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Michigan had a tough couple of days, huh?
yeah, oh my goodness. Yeah, we could go on and on about what's going on there. That's what I made the joke when I walked in this morning. I said, guys, nothing like that would ever happen at little old Northwood University.
There you go.
No scandals that I've heard of.
That's right.
Yeah. There's some camaraderie in the office with that, just
I'm
bragging
sure.
rights and all the rivalries there. Once in a while we'll have a bags tournament for Lions home games. And winners will get a gift card to one of the mom and pop shops for lunch in Clare, something like that.
Nice.
Just trying to break up the day.
You call it bags. Is that you mean cornhole?
Yeah, cornhole. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Midwest way to say it, or even just Michigan way to say it. Yeah.
For the Southern folk,
Yeah.
we
Yep.
call it cornhole.
Yep. Fair
Yeah.
enough. Yep. I always forget that. Yeah. We're jumping into Northern Logistics as a whole. If you're a driver looking for an opportunity, I really like our customer service aspect here. I think that's what helps us go above and beyond. Our communication is the most important thing to us. So whether that be with our drivers, with our customers, we're as upfront as we can be. And we're always trying to get better. But with LTL, if we pick up a skid today, we're delivering that tomorrow, unless something like yesterday with with us having to reschedule this, we get that 8 inches of snow, we might not be able to
Right.
get to certain places, and
Right.
because we'll go to docks that aren't plowed out, and our trucks aren't going to be able to get in and out of those. So it's ever changing, but for the most part, we are picking up a skid, delivering the next day, picking up a skid, delivering it the same day, if that communication is up front for us. But I really like the growth that we have made the 8 years I've been here. Our employee count has doubled in size, along with our truck and trailers. So we've got a really good thing going, and seems like we're trending in the right direction as well.
Awesome. And who's the team that you guys carry for?
Michigan State, the
Yeah.
football team, the
Yeah. Tell us
Spartans.
a
Yep.
little bit about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So our president Steve, he set that up. He went to Michigan State, diehard fan. But yeah, I don't remember how the opportunity came about, but he jumped right on it. This is our second year doing it this year. And like I said, yeah, the team that does it, they seem to have a blast doing it. They take the football team's equipment trailer from the practice facility in Lansing to wherever they're going that week. One of the hauls was out to USC this year, so it took them 3 days to get there, but they got to be there, see the game at the Coliseum,
We
and
get field passes too. Did you say
they
that?
do. Yep, they get to be on the
That's
sidelines
awesome.
if they choose. Yep, so
Yeah.
pretty cool perk for that.
So, before we wrap up here, talking about Northern Logistics, let our listeners know, how to, where to find you on the web, a phone number, and what kind of, I know you said y'all did, you're in the LTL department,
Yep,
y'all do have, OTR, van, flatbed, just, and then you have some, box trucks. Just kind
yep,
of, let our listeners know what kind of drivers that y'all do look for, if they need to have a certain kind of qualification, in case we do have some local Michigan guys that are listening that might be looking for work.
yep. One thing I didn't mention earlier too, we actually have our own truck school as well.
Oh,
Oh
wow,
wow.
So
that's
some of
unusual.
our best recent hires too have come through that school. We've seen a lot of good things from them. Actually, recently we had a customer reach out to us saying the driver that was there, they called in, they said, "Hey, just so you know, you guys hired an awesome driver. Don't let him go anywhere. He needs to be yours the rest of his career." And that's our goal too with that truck school. You go through the school and then you stay with Northern Logistics for your career. I mean, that is such a cool opportunity for us that,
Well, I
we'd love to
think
have it.
Well, I think you would agree that y'all know what they're learning. I think a lot of these
Hmm.
truck schools, which we had a lot of them just get closed down, I've seen over the last month or so, but I think that's a tremendous effort and investment in the industry and for the company for you guys to do that because Drivers, I laugh sometimes. They are there just long enough to learn how to put a truck in gear. And so,
Right. Yeah.
if you
Yep.
know exactly what they've learned and the people teaching it know what they're doing, yeah, you can bring out some great drivers that are good at what they're doing before they get started. And that I think
Yep.
is a big thing. So bravos for that.
Yeah, and we have seen it work really well. Definitely, it has been more of a positive than anything else. But we have, like you said, yep, we have LTL division all throughout Michigan. We dip down into northern Indiana, northern Ohio, pretty heavily in Chicago. We do over the road, dry van, flatbed, Conestoga, step decks. We're looking for all shifts, first, second, third shifts. We have somebody in dispatch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we are always available. Everybody has some sort of blanket knowledge that they're going to be able to help. Say, if I'm on call for a weekend and a over the road driver calls me with questions, I'm still going to have the tools to be able to help them. So I'd say we're pretty informed on, how we can help, making sure we still stay moving. Our main line is 989-386-7556. And that will get you to our dispatch, and we can send you to a recruiter if you're interested in a job offering. I know we're hiring local right now for Claire, local Taylor, Michigan, which is down near Detroit, and over the road starting in Claire as well right now.
Okay. We want to thank our sponsors. Gray Cross is a 501c3 nonprofit that helps families who have lost loved ones suddenly due to an auto accident or truck accident. Nearly 40,000 people lose their lives on the road each year. And when this tragedy hits families, it's sudden and they often face immediate financial pressure due to this loss. So donate if you can today. Graycross.org. Donate $1, donate $100, doesn't matter. Do whatever you can to help these families that have faced these unimaginable losses.
We also want to speak on our other great sponsor, Ready App. It's all about simplifying the driver verification and onboarding services, along with helping brokers and drivers operate with a little less friction. The verification is a very big issue that we're trying to help address there at Ready App with making sure we know who's driving our freight.
Yep, that's true. Yep. All right, Danny. Well, we appreciate your insight as a dispatcher. I mean, 8 years as a dispatch, it says a lot about, you don't see it very often, and it says a lot about Northern logistics. I think someone listening should, who's looking for a job, who may be in their late 20s, early 30s, trying to figure out what they want to do, can see
Mhm.
this and see that logistics is a meaningful position, and you're helping get goods where they need to be. So
Yep. Yep.
and you can develop a lot of good relationships and give yourself an opportunity to advance your career. So we appreciate taking the time to come on and tell us about your side of the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I hope you stay warm and don't get any
Yeah.
more
Yeah.
snow for a few days.
Yeah.
But listeners, we appreciate you coming on today and listening to Danny's story. If this episode has helped you, please share it with another driver, dispatcher, broker, or your best friend. Until next time, we'll see you behind the wheel.
Yep. Stay warm, Danny. Talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, guys.